What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your host with the most, Adam Perez, back with a brand new video today, guys. I actually wanted to go ahead and do a quick review. It's actually about maybe like 1:30 in the morning, honestly, and I just actually got done watching The New Mutants for the very first time. Now, I remember when this movie was first initially announced, I was really thrilled about it, quite honestly. I really love the direction that Fox had started to kind of go with their mutant universe, and then all of a sudden we wind up having a merger, but we had New Mutants already on the docket, was going to be filmed and things like that, so I knew we were still getting this movie, and I was super excited about it. I really thrilled with the way that the director and writer Josh Boone kind of talked it up, right? I mean, he was a huge fan of the comic books himself, also from Marvel, so I knew going into this film that he was very familiar with the actual work of the New Mutants from the Marvel comic book. So I definitely had a sense of excitement towards it, especially when you have a fantastic cast like they certainly did for this movie also. But then we wind up getting this film delayed for quite some time. Goodness, I can't even remember how many years was it. What, like 2-3 years before this movie actually was released to us. So to say my expectations kind of dwindled, I wasn't quite sure if we would ever get the opportunity to see this movie, and it finally got released. And so for myself, for somebody who has followed the story of New Mutants, who has been thoroughly excited to go ahead and try and see it, I'm actually quite surprised in myself that this is the first time I'm actually getting the opportunity to watch it. And I think because of the fact that some of the people that I had heard, whether it be critics or reviews, I felt like it came in, kind of under the radar. Like, nobody really talked about it, didn't really have too much to say about this film. I don't think that many people were pleased with it, or at least I didn't hear a bunch of people talking about it at the time, and if so, maybe not in the best light, to certainly say the least. So I do think that it kind of maybe turned me off towards the idea of seeing it, or maybe not that invested in sitting down and having to watch it right now. You know what I mean? And so I got to admit, though, getting the opportunity to see it tonight, I really enjoyed the film. I don't necessarily know if maybe I just went into it with really low expectations. I still kind of went into the movie not really knowing what I was going to get. I don't think I actually sat down and listened to really long reviews or detailed enough to kind of know what I was missing. So I really went into this movie with a completely blank slate and just, I guess, maybe lower expectations and just seeing what this movie was going to give to me. Now, while this certainly isn't an X-Men film by any stretch of the imagination, like if you're coming in here to see like these big bombastic sort of special effects and action sequences and battle sequences, it's probably not going to be that compelling to you. This honestly felt very much more like a character study, if you will, into the life of maturing mutants. And for me, I honestly found all that stuff very fascinating. And while, again, it's not like summer blockbuster action, this movie actually does have some pretty good action. I really enjoyed the way that they utilized the special effects. Maybe not always top-tier special effects, but in regards to at least showcasing the mutants' abilities, especially Sam's cannonballs, I thought would look breathtaking, especially considering the fact of just how you go about trying to express sort of Cannonball's powers for the big screen. I honestly think that they handled it relatively well. Same thing with Roberto, Sunspot himself. I really love the way that they showcased Danny's abilities also, the idea of like dreams and, working through your head in that way, in this sense, nightmares, if you will. So I thought that was really cool how they demonstrated that, or at least brought her mutant ability to life in that sense on the big screen. I thought they utilized it pretty well. I mean, even the transformation for Rain, like, I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe I've seen a little bit too many werewolf movies in my life to kind of maybe have pictured that this transformation of hers would be a little bit more painful, if you will, right? Like ripping out of her skin sort of thing. This just kind of made it look like hair just follicles just grew out of her body type of thing, right? So yeah, that was a little bit off for me, but to say the least, I really enjoyed how everybody's powers certainly came across. And because of the fact that I felt like this was very much a character study, if you will, I thought Josh Boone really tapped into these characters extremely well. Like when I see the dialogue and the way that this group gets along, or sometimes doesn't necessarily get along, I do think very early sort of New Mutants series style comics. I can easily see these five getting along or butting heads, upon initially having to meet and things like that, considering the circumstances that they're kind of in. So I honestly thought they tapped into a lot of the relationships really well. Rain and Danny, I thought they just knocked that out of the park, along with the close budding relationship between Sam and Roberto as well. And Ileana just stealing the show in here also. Just absolutely loved it. So I really enjoyed what Josh Boone was able to do in regards to this. For me, it was compelling enough to keep my interest, just because of the fact that I really was fascinated with all these characters. Dr. Reyes, I am interested in the reason in using her in this way. Now, in the comic books, Dr. Reyes she is a doctor, but she's actually an X-Men also. So the fact that they kind of switched and used their liberties here to have Dr. Reyes working for the Essex Foundation, which is technically, in other words, they're saying this is all Mr. Sinister stuff. The villain from X-Men, all Mr. Sinister stuff. And it almost looked like, I don't know if you guys noticed, and maybe this was done on purpose, but when we see Danny getting into the mind of Dr. Perez, Dr. Reyes, I am curious if that same footage that they use of the kids that were being imprisoned and stuff, is that the same footage that they used in Logan for X-23 for Laura? I'm wondering if these two movies have that type of connection in that Fox X-Men universe. So I thought that was fascinating, that this could be an offshoot of that program, or I believe she said maybe this was the first step, and then they would take you into what that vision was, or that next prison, or whatever the case may be. So I thought that was pretty fascinating how they showcased that and the connection that they wind up making to the other X-Men universe and stuff. But overall, I enjoyed the film. Again, I could definitely see that this movie is not for everybody, just because of the fact that it just depends on what your expectations are, certainly going into the movie. But I love the concept and the idea of learning about mutants, the idea of what usually forces them to change or go into activating their X gene, usually in a high tense sort of pressure situation where your emotions are just kind of through the roof, if you will. And I love how they just really showcased everybody's story, really fleshed out all the characters in here, really kind of made you care for them and the situations that they were certainly in. So amazing cast, great choice if you ask me. And I thought everybody really shined in this movie. So I'm a little bit bummed that it took us so long to certainly see this. I probably wouldn't have seen this midnight showing for sure, but I could definitely say I probably would have seen it opening weekend, most definitely, if it had actually dropped on time. So, listen, I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Were you a big fan of New Mutants? For me, I'd probably give it like a B or so, maybe even a B plus. I was actually kind of even more impressed with it than I honestly thought that I would be, to be quite honest with you guys. But if you've had the opportunity to check out New Mutants, certainly let me know what your thoughts of it certainly was. Does this fit really nicely into the X-Men Fox universe, or can you live without this one? Certainly go ahead and let me know your thoughts. What I find interesting too, let me just ramble real quick here. Josh Boone did say originally, I remember, that his initial script actually had Professor X and Storm sort of in that doctor role, where Dr. Reyes was certainly at. And I just remember thinking to myself that it would be really difficult for me to picture Storm in in this particular situation if they continued exactly with this same exact script, but then just put those two in there. You know what I mean? It just felt like it probably would have been a completely different movie at that point. Maybe the idea of learning, but maybe just not under the Essex Foundation, right? Maybe it probably would have been at Xavier's mansion or whatever the case might have been. So I do find that fascinating. I'm wondering if that was a change by the studio, or like, you know, something that they decided to change up and agree on. Not as scary as I thought it would be. I didn't have as many jump scares. I mean, it's definitely some creepy moments for sure. Maybe one or two jump scares, but they're definitely not as scary as I thought this movie was certainly going to be. So maybe in that extent, it didn't live up to my expectations. So maybe that's why I'm giving it like a B or a B plus, if you will, because I was really hoping for more jump scares. But I thought all the character work was great. Again, I thought the characters lived up to the personalities that I can recall, the friendships, the chemistries, the connections, and things like that. So outside of some of the liberties that they took with the characters, or the storyline, I should say, itself, I really loved what I saw from Josh Boone. So sad I won't be able to get the opportunity to see them again, but who knows? Maybe they'll get cast at some particular point in time down the road for the X-Men and the MCU. But listen, guys, at the end of the day, this is just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. What did you think about New Mutants? If you haven't seen it, you think about giving it a shot, I would recommend it just for shits and giggles, guys. Go ahead and check it out for yourself, and definitely let me know your thoughts. But in the meantime, do me a big favor, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next time, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.